We have all had the dream that we could live in a world of automation, just like George Jetson pushing a button.
You gotta have it up here to know how to start these things and stop them and start them again.
Now, that dream has been slow to arrive, but now we are seeing the rise of artificial intelligence and intelligent assistants. Companies that specialize in automating the mundane and not so mundane tasks of people have finally arrived to help drag us into the future. And today we are talking with someone who is building this future. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome back to another Future Tech video podcast. The audio version of the podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and most of the others, or you can find it at futr.buzzsprout.com. Today we are excited to welcome Muddu Sudhakar, a founder and CEO of Aisera, an out-of-the-box conversational AI service management product which focuses on bringing automation to the masses. The company was founded in 2017 and has raised about $90 million to date from major venture firms. Muddu is a serial entrepreneur and investor, and now he is building a company for a rapidly expanding market. And Muddu is here to give us all the details. Welcome, Muddu.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me, and thank you, Sandesh.
Thanks for being on. This is such an interesting area of technology. I think it's going to really make a big change in the world when everybody's fully engaged in it here. But before we get into that, I want to learn a little bit about you and your journey, how you got here, and what was the impetus to create Aisera?
I was at ServiceNow in 2017. Right. So imagine the world before COVID. I know most people can't even think that back 4 years back. But
yeah,
the issue, look, I think the key thing that when we started looking at this space in 2017 was being at ServiceNow, you have the front door seat into what's happening in the customer service, help desk environment. And ServiceNow is doing extremely well. And what we found that time when I talked to the users and customers was, there was already a growing need for customers to take this solution to do something great, which is there a way can you provide a self-service? Like, remember, Alexa already came out in the market, right? People wanted Alexa-like interface. Even though Alexa is for a voice, the idea of a self-service started happening in the industry, right? People did not want to go to a call center person. Let's say you have a problem with your iPhone. You have a problem with your laptop, whether you have a problem with your Salesforce account. Opening up a trouble ticket or a customer support ticket, talk to an agent, doing certain things. I mean, we all support that in our daily lives, right? I don't know about you guys. Let's say if you have a problem with Xfinity or your Comcast or your PG&E or your Samsung. I mean, endless hours we spend time trying to. Some of it could be easy to debug it ourselves. So if you believe in the self-service, like how Uber revolutionized from your taxi industry to how you have seen the Airbnb has done it for hospitality to Grubhub doing it for ordering food. There's no reason not to do that in IT, right?
Yeah.
So that was the impetus that we started with. And lo and behold, I think the moment that became clear, that's when I think you and me talked earlier about Dan Vormanoven. Obviously, Dan is a big fan of this, right? So I talked to Ram Shira. Ram is on the board of Google. So the people few of the top investors, like I've talked to Venki Ganeshan from Menlo Ventures, right? Matt Howard from Norwest, John Callahan from True Ventures, right? So, and Vinod Khosla, the most disruptor like Khosla Ventures. All these guys said, look, guys, let's go disrupt this market, right? It started like that. It was like an idea saying that can we go disrupt this market of customer service? And the big dog in this game is ServiceNow and Salesforce.
Yeah.
Right. So can we go after that market? And again, our goal is to help the users. As long as our eye is on the users, rest will be easy.
Well, so tell me a little bit about the market you play in, this sort of AIOps space, and you've built a conversational AI, robotic process automation tool. Can you talk a little bit about what is AIOps and what are all those acronyms mean?
So I'll just start a little bit, bubble up, and then get in. So first is, look, if you look at the market, one is internal employees, right? Let's say if you go to an employer, pick a company of your interest. Let's say you go to companies like Netflix, or you go to company like Zoom. The employees there, they want a self-help, right? Self-service.
Yeah.
And that area traditionally in the market is called ITSM, IT service management, right? You probably heard the word IT help desk.
Yep.
How do you automate for that? So we play in that area. That category, Gartner is calling it AISM. So instead of the old ITSM, it's called AI-driven service management, right? Can you do some kind of AI to automate your service management, right? Whether Gartner terminology will stay in the market or not, AISM is the new broader category here. There's going to be a magic quadrant in that area, right? Then you have to do that same thing for external customer service, right? Like the CRM space. Your users will go to your web page, open up a trouble ticket, or make a phone call, send an email. Automating that area is also important. So that is called AI customer service. So you have IT service management, customer service management, applying AI for both. So Aisera will play in both areas, right? We have customers like Zoom, and we just did a press release, I think a week or 2 weeks back. And if not, I can send you the link to you guys, where Zoom and us, we actually are automating their customer service request completely, right? And that includes not just when you have a problem with Zoom. Let's say you want to do billing, you want to cancel your order, you want to buy more of Zoom. So it's all sales, revenue operations. Is the first call is Aisera, right? Imagine, Zoom had this vision. That's why I like so much about company like Zoom is, look, you are growing in the COVID. They had nothing but to automate these functions. If you cannot do it, then goes to your humans, your renewals, and goes to your customer support agent, so they can focus on high valued items.
Yeah.
Something simple, Aisera should do it. So that's the second market, Chris. There's a third thing that we play on, which is to automate your operations. Operations could be IT, could be cloud and DevOps. That we go under the brand AIOPs.
Gotcha.
So there are three things. So the internal help desk is all AISM or AI service desk. AI customer service is external. And the last one is the AIOps.
So, I think when we talk about, this sort of thing, people think about the old days of these IVR systems and, like kind of getting, the pick up the phone and talk to a, automated, response system. But this is way more sophisticated than that, right? This is deeply, AI is deeply embedded into this, and you're doing so much on the back end as well. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Very good question. So what happens is, once you go underneath that, to do an conversational AI, what it basically is, early days people call it chatbots, right?
Yeah.
You put a chatbot on Future Tech web page, people ask this. What they really wanted that device, that system to be a conversational system. Like you and me are having a conversation system in a podcast, right? You're asking a question, I'm trying to answer that.
Yeah.
Ideally, the more we can do that, and that's the goal of the natural language processing and AI is, how much can you do to the point I can try to be as natural and human and serve your needs. If you do a point, if I don't do it properly, you'll go talk to a human, right? So that whole thing is the conversational AI is, can you dialogue with the user? Can you converse with the user? How long can I engage you to the point I can solve your problem? If I make you too much friction and I don't solve you, if I make you angry, you'll go back to the live human being, right? So that whole current AI is, can you try to do as much as possible? In that, the type of questions is only information serving or knowledge serving. That is where current AI traditionally be. What we figure out is, if you look at any company, if some percentage of requests will not be knowledge, they actually have to do something with the workflow, some actions, right? So actions could be, you may want to come and say, I want to buy Zoom subscription or extend my Zoom subscription, right? Yeah. It could be anything. It could be like, I want to modify my subscription. I want to add more users. These are require some kind of a workflow and a task and an action to be completed. So that's where the RPA comes in. It's a robotic process automation. You become like a bot to perform the action that a human would do. It may require many steps. It could be a complex decision tree, right? So we can execute workflows across users to employees to customers. And that we go under the brand conversational RPA.
Yeah.
So you have conversation AI for knowledge serving. Current RPA is to automate these workflows in a conversational manner. And RPA is very hard right now, as you can see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny. I find that when I talk to founders of companies that, like started off, creating a big AI platform, one of the things that they they had as an initial vision is creating the AGI, the generalized intelligence, right? Is that something that you initially pursued when you did it, or you knew exactly where you were going?
Not necessarily. So I'll tell you what we did. So I think in my case, it was we didn't want to create like a platform. Look, my belief is you need to create a specific solution to a problem.
Yeah.
I won't have the earn to become a platform unless many customers use it across many use cases.
Yes.
You need to see the AI will work really well if you make a focused application, focused solution to an industry. To the point, you need to work. So one thing that we have to do in our thing is, because I'm speaking natural language processing, if you are a customer in a healthcare company, I need to understand healthcare verbiage and terminology. You have to understand its ontology, terminology. Yeah. So being a platform really doesn't help in AI many times. So the more focused solution you can do it, the fidelity and accuracy will be very good. Now, as you evolve all these things, eventually you will connect all of them through some kind of a platform. So what we did is to create our application, we create what we call an AutoML platform. If you guys look at AutoML on internet, you can see it's basically how do you create the AI algorithms and models? How do you version them? How do you execute them? You need to have a basic platform. And Google kind of invented that whole AutoML approach. So we kind of used that and extended that. But our applications are very specific to each industry, so that if you are a healthcare company, you are a e-commerce company, you are a high-tech company, you're insurance, you are getting exactly a very customized solution that meets your needs. And that's very important for AI. And that gives you very good accuracy, because in 2 questions, if I don't answer you, you're not going to come back to me again.
Yeah, well, and I think you're so right when we talk to companies all the time who want to build this platform. They don't have a specific solution that they're trying to solve, and I think you're spot on, and focusing yourself on the problems that you're really trying to solve. Now, natural language processing is a challenging area, and there's sort of the idea of NLP versus NLU, right? Natural language understanding. And I think when you're talking about focusing on very specific markets, and you kind of allude to the complexity of what you're doing in that understanding the jargon of a specific industry is really key to servicing the customer best, right?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you also some of the do's and don'ts as you go through it. I think might be useful for some of the audiences that may listen to your podcast, right? So first is, see, early days of this is a game. It is not like a garage project. See, technology sounds so good and everything. A lot of customers, what I started seeing early days was, I want to do it myself, do it yourself, kind of, right? I'm going to build it. I'm going to hire some data scientist. I'm going to go build it. By the time you do that and hire people and get a good solution and implement something, you would spend millions of dollars, takes a couple of years, and you will not get there. So first solution is, don't build a common AI system by yourself, right? Even though you take an open source technology, there's a lot goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It requires a professional company to maintain and do this. That's number one.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's beyond just NLP, right? The NLP itself has so many different algorithms. You have to have natural language understanding, because when somebody asks a question, in your question, I need to understand the meaning of your question. In NLP and NLU, that's called intent. What is the intent Chris is having when he asks a question? Or what if you ask a question which is kind of loaded question, if you have multiple intents, right?
Right.
So right. It's right. You may want to say, I want to do this place. So able to understand the intents, and then able to understand what the workflow to execute. How do you respond to it, right? So this whole idea of intent. Now, the other angle to intent is, an intent can be expressed in 1,000 different ways. Your English in Chicago may be different from my Palo Alto English to a Texas English, right?
Yeah.
People will ask the same question in 1,000 different ways, right? So think of like Google itself. When you go private in the Google Internet, people ask questions in many different ways. So the AI needs to be trained, and those are called phrases, or some people call them utterances, right? How many different ways a single intent can be expressible that the system should know. But you can't think of all combinations possible. If you do, then you're acting like a god, right? Then you're really not creating an AI solution, right? You're like, oh, I know all my users what they're going to ask. That's why early days people did chatbots. So if you look at most chatbots was like, okay, if a user asks a question A, I'll do this.
Yeah.
Then you're really acting like your user, what they're going to ask, and create it. And the rate at which you can hit those will be so small, they didn't work. So the traditional chatbots that are like, I mean, I don't want to name the companies, but you can see it, all the large companies have tried it, right? Any big company. So they tried to get them, but those solutions did not scale because they went down a wrong path. Now
Yeah.
you are seeing a resurgence of common AI systems, which is, it's not a traditional chatbot. It is really a dialogue engine. It uses NLP and NLU. In that also there are the two classes. One class is called supervised algorithms, or other is called unsupervised. Unsupervised is where you don't sit and train your algorithm every day. So again, I don't know if you guys have kids, but imagine you want to be a tiger mom or a tiger dad. Like if you want to really sit and train your kid and write his own exam, you're really super tiger dad or tiger mom. I didn't want that, so I choose the approach. Look, it is not either. We took the unsupervised approach. We said, look, I'm not going to train my algorithm every day. I don't want my customers to sit and train them. Doesn't make sense. Uh, so think of the analogy. What's happening? What Tesla did really well. As you're driving the car, it's shadowing the driver. It's learning. That's what Google Waymo is doing. That's the approach we did. We said, look, we will shadow the users. We shadow the agents. You can learn from them. You can do reinforcement learning, but you don't need to sit and train.
Yeah.
You may give me the data set. So that whole area is called unsupervised NLP or NLU. So can you do unsupervised AI algorithms where I don't need you to train me, right? And then can you present? So that class of algorithms is very popular these days in NLP. You still need some supervision.
Right.
So it's big, but 90% should happen through unsupervised.
So what about like the emotional context? I mean, can you now determine whether somebody's frustrated or happy or those sorts of things?
Absolutely. Look, I think first is understanding the intent, right? Next thing out of intent would be is sentiment, is a simple angle. Then question is this person frustrated? Is he angry? Is this user going to be a churn user? Is it going to be a hot customer lead? I mean, you can get quite a bit of information out of the things and from algorithmically, right? Whether the user temperature, user is happy, what's his sentiment. Again, sentiment is not like a good, happy kind of thing. You can go to gradients. It's a shades of gray. How happy he or she is. What is he asking for? What is the meaning of the request, right? What has happened in the past? Again, and that question should not be just in isolation. Because even if you come and ask me a question today, what did you ask me 2 days back? Do you keep the state of that user, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Did Sandesh and Muddu had a conversation yesterday? When he asked this question, should I use the previous context or not, right? So good news is, look, this technology is, I call it still in first innings. It'll be 10 more years to go. But this is going to revolutionize where I would say 80-90% of IT records will not go to humans. And it's not customer support. I'm saying IT administrators. Like if you want to deploy your laptop or you want to set up your accounts in VMware, Citrix, Cohesity, Rubrik, Sandesh, you talked about all those. All of that will be done by algorithms. Like bringing up a server, allocating storage to EMC, NetApp, Dell. These will be automated quite extent. And it's already there today. That's what we do. So many companies, even the Citrix environments, VMware environments, Box environments, SharePoint, allocation of more users, more space, deprovisioning them, onboarding them, is completely gets automated.
One of the things that we keep hearing in the news a lot lately is about this labor shortage, right? That everybody's experiencing, and to some extent, some of it is just sort of the mundane and repetitive tasks that some employees get asked to do, which are sort of driving employees away. And what you're doing can really replace a lot of that functionality and do it faster with greater accuracy. What you talk about you're not a platform, you're kind of focusing on very specific kinds of use cases, but could you talk a little bit about sort of the breadth of applications that this could have and the kinds of things that you can achieve with this sort of a product?
See, the way in which we are thinking about market is today we started with I call them domains, departments.
Yeah.
To your point, where we started with IT as a domain, for example. Then we went to customer support and service. Then we are adding HR. We added HR a few years back. Now we are doing sales, marketing, legal, finance. So what will happen is, so you don't start. So in any company, you look at a large corporation, there are these vertical groups. So IT may be a horizontal function, but there could be a legal function, which is also horizontal. There could be a sales function. Sales guys may want to automate their sales function, which could be from contract management, from NDAs to codes and all of them, the back and forth questions. All of us done that. You don't need another person to enable those things. That can be easily automated. See, what I've understood from Zoom was the billing requests, the billing and invoicing today for Zoom. And we did that. We're able to automate those, right? So, I mean, in COVID time, they had to automate them because how do you scale otherwise?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I think you'll see this will go on across the board. So use case will start one. So my goal is to create all these use cases, but underneath we have the platform. But my goal is not to sell the platform, Chris, because I want to solve it. If you want a screwdriver, I want to give you the best screwdriver. If you want a hammer, I want to give you a better hammer. Right? I'm not going to sell you a Swiss Army knife. I mean, that's not going to solve my problem.
Yeah. Well, you have to sell the use case, but you have to have the platform to scale, right?
That's right. You need a platform to build your use cases, but you sell a specific solution.
I think that, and it's interesting. I mean, we talk a lot about startups and business and things on the channel here too. But I think that's a point that gets lost on a lot of people. They miss the forest for the trees, right? And if the customer doesn't understand how this is going to benefit them, it's very hard to sell that product, right?
But your second part of the question there, I just want to comment on. See, you said a lot of repetitive. It's very important what you mentioned. See, as you go on to keep employees engaged and do the higher value items, you want to eliminate the mundane tasks so that you get the best out of them, both for the employees and also your call center people. Because even the bigger thing for me, at least personally, is there are, I don't know how many, the last I checked is like 40 million jobs worldwide on call centers alone. And most of those people get below federal age salary, right? I mean, do they want to become salespeople, product managers, entrepreneurs? Absolutely, right? You got to give them a path to go there. They should not be waiting to say, okay, you know what, I want to take a call from Chris to reset his laptop, right? That's not, I mean, I don't know how many times you reset your laptop, but you know what I'm saying? You got to automate that, man. Come on.
Yeah.
I need you to do self-service to your own laptop, right?
Yeah.
You don't need a butler for that.
Well, the problem you're taking on is challenging. I mean, just doing natural language processing, natural language understanding, that is hard to start with. That's a hard problem to solve. But then, understanding what people are trying to ask is one thing, but then you have to do something with that, right? And so, there's a whole lot that has to work on the back end. And I know that, one of the things that you guys have focused obviously a lot on is integration with a lot of different products, because you have a whole long list on your site of those. Can you speak to, some of the complexities of doing that piece of it?
Very good question. So you're right. Yeah, first is understanding, but to finish a task, you need to have integration with other third-party downstream, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's Microsoft, VMware, right? Which are AWS. So yeah, absolutely. So first thing is to create what you call integrations, touch points. And within the touch point, it won't happen as a one-time request response, right? You have to do series of actions. Most requests could be go to SharePoint, change something there, change its user permission, make sure you have Active Directory sign on, go to Okta to get the single sign on. So there are multiple steps can happen, and somebody needs to automate all of them. It's not one step. So integrations is important, and those integration has to be bidirectional.
Yeah. And
making those integration AI driven. See, integration, it was there even before 5-10 years back, right? There are all kinds of connectors and integration. Problem was they are not they are not humanly consumable. They are not they were designed for administrative driven. Like in early days of EMC NetApp, an admin could bring up 10 terabytes. But I don't want admin to bring up. I want you should do self-service. You see what I'm saying, Sandesh? So it was like change the concept from an administrative driven to a user driven. So these connectors and bidirection should be in a way you have to build a solution so that when you try to interact, an end user can serve his request or her request easily. So absolutely, that whole integration, that's what I mean by conversational RPA. So I need a robotic process automation, I need connectors, but I need to make them a conversation driven.
Conversational integrations can be a very efficient way to interact with systems. I mean, we all saw it on Star Trek, right? Computer, do this for me. But I think, in the past it's been a little bit challenged because some of the technologies haven't been there. But now we're in an era where so much more of that is available to us, and products like yours, that really embrace that methodology, have gotten so good at understanding and having those conversations. It's a really interesting time in which we live, right?
Yeah, and it is, and the fidelity is very high. See, I don't know if I mentioned, so we have now close to 70 million users worldwide on our Aisera platform. We are able to get 65 to 70 to 80% resolution on the request.
Wow.
I mean, if you asked me 3 years back, so this will eventually reach 90%. That means I'm saying is, if you have 100 requests come to me, 70% of those we resolve it without going to a human already. And these are like, if you see on our website, like our customers are like Zoom, McAfee, right? All these name brand companies, right? So we're able to solve all of those across the board. Now, what will happen is we are doing this thing for omni-channel, right? It could be for email, it could be for text. Imagine doing for voice too, the IVR you talked about. So in the old days, when you make a phone call, IVR, what do? You make a phone call and it's called 1-800-FUTURE TECH, press 0 to talk to Sandesh, press 1 to talk to Chris. You don't need to do that. You actually start speaking, then I would like to speak with Chris. Is Chris available? Right? So you're able to extract the voice text and route into that. It's really like Alexa. And I call that one conversational IVR, or AI-driven contact centers. So you'll start seeing that. Again, voice is still going to be there. It's not going to be fully eliminated. Some industry will be more and less, but the voice also will go through our phone contact center, will go through a conversation system. So you're seeing that like companies like from Cisco to Zoom to Ring Central, 8x8, all these guys who offer contact center are offering what we call a conversational AI solution in print.
I mean, you mentioned 70 million users. I mean, that's a lot of people who with a lot of different accents, different languages, I imagine.
I think close to 100 languages now.
100 languages.
Yeah, Japanese, Chinese, Spanish, German. I mean, people. I mean, you can actually see it. I mean, we have people asking questions in different languages for different customers.
That's got to be a massive undertaking. Just one language is hard enough. I mean, how do you do 100 languages?
Yeah, it is. So the language translation service, how do you do that? And how do you understand the meaning in those languages? What are those? And what is the language available behind that documentation, right? What kind of a knowledge repository they have? What type of actions to take on those systems, right? Yeah, I mean, it is definitely, look, it's not that's why I said it's not a high school project. It is not a garage project. So the key thing, if there's one thing I want to convey to the CIOs or any of leaders is, don't try to build this. I mean, if you do that, you're not being a citizen of your own company. This is to be given. It's like you don't wake up and say, I want to build an electric car. You may be a hobbyist, but you want an electric car, go buy from Tesla. I mean, that game is done. I mean, you're not going to compete with Tesla.
Well, and this is something that we've told a lot of our customers too, because, it's like, I'm going to build out this huge AI capability and do all this stuff. And it's like, well, there's a lot of cool tools out there that you can use. But one, it's hard to find the people to do that kind of work because there's not a lot of them outside of the Valley. And it's probably not a core competency for your business. And the reality is, there's tools out there that are available that you can consume as a SaaS product or however you're going to consume them. That, if it's not your core competency and it's difficult to build this kind of practice, maybe it's not, something you should be taking on, right?
You're absolutely right. And again, it's not that everybody wants to not do it. I think sometimes people want to do it because they want to support their teams. They want them to build their know-how. Right? It's like there is a reason to build yourself is not just that you want to do it. They think by doing that, they can give their employees a career path or give them a job growth opportunity. But quickly what happens is, as you said, if my business is financial services, I should not be building this, right? And that's something even banks are realizing that, right? Which are like whether you're a JP Morgan or Bank of America, you are here to solve retail and consumer banking. This is not your forte. Yeah. Can you do it? I mean, I'm sure given a time and energy, focus, anybody can do something, but they shouldn't be doing. But I think that is the number one challenge that I think most companies are still facing is they're building it. They're not jumping on the train to start testing it. And AI is one of those things. If you do not start now, and if you kick the can down the street, it's going to take that longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to postpone this decision, right? It's like our debt. Our national debt keeps increasing it. At some point, you got to cut it. So the more you kick down the can, the more longer it'll take. You got to take action today, which is where I prompt all the CEOs and look, dude, please start with something today. It can be small, it can be medium. But if you don't know, you don't start now, you don't know exactly how it's going to work in your environment.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is a little bit of the Gartner bimodal IT, where they talk about, the 20% of your time in, innovation and trying different things and learning from it, while the 80% is just the same and steady and make sure your operations are going. But I think you're right, is that, how do we get customers in big organizations to actually take some more risks and to accept failure and to accept that the failure is the best way to ultimately solve some of these problems. But the sooner you start learning your problems and the sooner you start to learn where your gaps are, then you can actually figure out how you're going to actually use the product effectively.
Sandesh, you nailed it. And I actually even go to the other extent. This is something I've talked to many of our investors recently, right? So the failure should be, if you as a CEO, if you have not failed, that means you have not tried enough.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you don't know the spectrum. That's why I love what Jeff Bezos is like. He doesn't mind making $1 billion mistake. You got to make bets without risk. So you have to try it. You got to try it. That means you as an organization, this solution does not work for you. But try it. But the trying should not be, I call it put a little bit of finger and let it go. Like try for I want to do a pilot. I want to do a POC for 1 month. But that's not. If you're a CEO of a large organization, $1 billion organization or $500 million, come on, you got to make a 1 year bet, 2 year bet. 1 year is nothing.
Right.
Make a 1 year bet, but be sincere about it.
Yeah.
Your goal is, and see how far it goes and if it failed or not.
Yeah.
And Sandesh, as you said, you can't do just this bimodal 20% and 80%. If you start doing that mentality, you'll never take a risk.
We see so much risk taking in like the valley, but once you get outside of the valley, businesses are traditionally not as risk taking. But I agree with you 100%. If you're not failing occasionally, you're not pushing hard enough, right? And that's a really important piece to keep moving forward. So many people get so worried about what the repercussions of failure are that they don't even try. And that's a really bad place to be in.
It is. And again, there are many famous people made many quotes, right? Like software is eating the world. To me, AI is eating the businesses. Doesn't matter outside the valley or whether you are in East Coast, Midwest, most businesses are being disrupted today with AI. Every core business, right? So AI is going to be the core. Like AI is disrupting the automotive industry, right? I mean, you are seeing it. Right? There'll be autonomous car in some shape or form. It's different, disrupting what we call trucking industry, right? Who would have thought that 10 years back?
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's important that every business should wake up and say, look, I need to try something and I want to grow my business. I want to invest for my business. So it always starts from the top C-level people, and the more risk takers they are and the more invest in the future, it helps them, their shareholders, their employees, and their customers.
So, to that point, how do you respond to people who say, like AI really worries me because it's going to take all the jobs, and then, what do people do, right? So how do you respond to that?
Look, AI itself, whether it's going to lose jobs or not, it's like industrial revolution. When it happened, farmers didn't say, I lose my job. I mean, tractors came, made the farmers better farmers, right? Railroads came in, it became a better commerce. So I don't think the society and humanity is at the point. Humans are pretty smart. They'll figure out how to evolve. AI will become a tool to use to make ourselves better, right? We will build things on top of it. We will use that to make that. So I don't think it eliminates the job. The net jobs it will create is much more than the jobs it's going to automate, right? There will be some shift here and there, but there'll be jobs will move from the menial job. Like you don't clean your toilet anymore. You have a flush. You clean it, right? I mean, things have evolved to the point, right? You may still use janitor to limited service, right? But their jobs have gone to the higher level function. Same thing is actually in call center industry, right? As I said, there are 40 million people. It's not those people who want to do those jobs. I'm not trying to eliminate their job. They actually want to move up. I'm sure, Chris, they want to become a podcast owner like you. They want to be a CIO like you. They want to be a CEO like Sandesh and you guys, right? People need to have a dream, right? If you don't have a dream, what will happen is that's what creates a problem, right? The reason we have like 40 million jobs in, imagine countries like Philippines or Costa Rica or India, China. I mean, you can create a serious unrest in society. If they get only $5 to $10 an hour and all their life they're doing call center job, I mean, that's a problem to society, right?
Yeah.
So I think we have a moral obligation to make them grow, right? So it's not like you're taking the job. So by doing that, you are actually giving them education. They want to learn this software. They want to use this software. They want to learn. They want to understand NLP. Look, every call center company that I visited them, I mean, some of these people, they love this AI, right? It's impacting their direct job. They come and tell me, Muddu, I love this thing because I can be more efficient. They want to know how they can use my solution to offer better service to them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Imagine they are the direct people who are taking the phone call. They still want to use our solution to offer a better service. So if you actually ask the people in the trenches, they actually don't want to do this mundane task repeatedly.
Well, and I think, you kind of speak to this. It's like we can't be a country of low wage workers, right? I mean, at some point we
Yes,
have to, create a labor force of more higher value, workers. Your product brings an interesting thing to it too, right? I mean, because on the one hand, it's doing jobs that maybe people were doing in the past, low wage jobs, low skill jobs that people were doing in the past. But on the other hand,
right.
by enabling people, you're allowing people who are maybe lower skilled workers to do higher value kinds of work because they have automation behind them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, you nailed it very good. So that's exactly what I'm saying. So taking these people and moving to higher level jobs, first of all, they get very excited, and you now become your job pool market is went up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So other day when I look at the customer success people who support AI, they're so smart. They actually are becoming product managers. I mean,
Wow.
you wouldn't have thought, like, imagine back at NetApp and EMC and VMware, the support person would have gone to be a product manager of an AI company, right? He or she is now able to handle these calls and able to do it. They can help me product design of this product, right?
Looking at how AI is being able to code things and that sort of thing too. It's like people who maybe don't have those coding skills but have great ideas can start being entrepreneurs. I mean, the idea of like a conversational RPA product, you could build a whole business around that as an entrepreneur too, right?
Absolutely. And again, you can take it to the various places. Right? I tell people, take on RPA to very many industries, like go to like hospital chains, nurses, right? They are the first responders. Do you think the nurse and the doctor will have any time if you are in the helping all the COVID patients? Imagine he or she makes a phone call and say, hey, something is not working. They won't even have time to go to a web page, log into some computer, right? Their passwords are logged out. Simple function, if you can do it for healthcare responders, they'll love it, right?
Yeah.
So, and you make them efficient because they're saving lives for all of us.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody in the Valley always talks about how they're going to change the world. I mean, you're on a definite course to change the world for the better here.
Oh, I hope so. Look, I'm doing my part. My goal is, I'm not even thinking that far in future. Like, my goal is, can we start disrupting little bit at a time, right?
Yeah.
It's going to take many droplets to become the ocean, but I think it'll take another 5-10 years. But this train is not going to stop. The train left the station, so customer service, IT, as you see, will be automated to majority of their functions. So I believe 80-90% will be automated. Some will be with humans.
We've talked around the edges of this a little bit, but you've got 70 million users right now. So I mean, obviously you're in a whole lot of businesses. Can you talk about some of the really interesting use cases that you've seen, from your customer base and the way that your tools are being used?
Yeah, like cybersecurity. Let's start with that. We are in the news right now with all the ransomware and everything.
Yeah.
Right? McAfee is my big customer. Like, if you go to McAfee webpage, we automate all their customer support services, etc. And they're in every brand, right? McAfee has millions of users. The user could be like my mom, dad, they're consumers, right? So it would be as simple as saying my antivirus does not work, my laptop logged out, I clicked on a wrong URL, I went somewhere, some site, or my phishing attack happened on my laptop. So all their trouble tickets and billing, I want to renew my listing, we're able to do that for McAfee. We've been doing it for the last 3 years, right? It's as sweet spot use case as you can imagine, right? It's a cybersecurity, consumers worldwide in multiple languages, right? We are doing also for companies like Zoom, right? As I said, Zoom employees, internal employees, like for their day-to-day needs, from IT, HR, sales needs, to external support and billing, right? We're automating them. And come on, Zoom is like, they're like, I understand, like close to 200 million users, and they're going to be like 300 million users next year. They're going 200%, like the whole world, what Eric Yuan and team has created. For me, it's like, we are proud and thrilled to have Zoom as a partner and a customer to us, right? Great use case there across the board.
Yeah.
Then you have company like New Jersey Transit, right? New Jersey Transit, we work with Microsoft, Azure team and Teams to imagine the platform is again Microsoft Teams. People are inside the teams coming and asking questions on their web page, right? New Jersey Transit during the COVID, they had their own challenges. So they had the vision to automate user requests and employee requests from an RPA perspective, Chris, from a information to that. So that's a great use case we did. We also did vendors like 8x8. 8x8 is like a collaboration space, right? It is IVR space. So their customers are asking about phone requests, everything. So they wanted to automate customer service requests for them. Then we have a fintech company like called Dave.com. They call them banking for humans, right? So if you want to move money and international money to various companies, money transfers, right? So think of like it's a fintech app, both on the mobile app, right? Their customers are people and living in Android and iOS, right? If they have a problem moving the money, etc., all of that is we are doing that for them, right? It's a fintech company, right? They actually have like close to what 10 to 20 million users, right? Look it up. It's a if you have not opened it, maybe you should open up a checking account with them. And check account with them too, right?
They got to have some money to put in it.
No, I think look at the use case expand. Like then we have customer like Autodesk, right? They're into engineering design and those things. They want to automate from customers service desk all the way to operations needs, right? Automating their IT, cloud, and DevOps needs. So the use cases are enormous. Look, the people that we have touched so far are so wide ranging. The last one I can mention is Dartmouth University during pandemic. Mitch is their CIO, right? Both for faculty and students. They're like, I think, 30,000 students, whole university plus the faculty, all their users on a Slack. So they want people to come on their web page or on the Slack. They can communicate, they can collaborate. So Aisera would be the one which will be answering all their questions to the students and faculty.
Well, let me know when you've got a, podcast interview or, AI.
Let's make it happen. You guys should become, you and us should become a partners here, no?
Yeah, well, I'd love to interview, your AI maybe.
Yeah, ask a question and see what it responds back to you.
Yeah, but I think what you're speaking to, Muddu, is, these days we've been talking about businesses are becoming IT organizations. And we've been Chris and I talk about this all the time. I feel like the value used to be for an IT organization was, I got a technology problem. I need to really understand how it all connects, how it all communicates, how it all works. And then I'm going to pay for services like people like us to actually install it and support it and blah, blah, blah. I think the decision is now, one, moving up the chain to the C level, because now the technology is having complete business impact. But the second thing is, I don't think they really want to know all the details of how the sausage is made. I just think that they just want the outcome. And so I think some of the comments that you made even before I was taking some notes was, just the amount of the, operations that it should take to support an organization from an IT perspective should be a lot lower. It should be a commodity that you can just get and install. So you're disrupting the market in a few different ways too. Even from like a sales and marketing perspective, you're now selling to non-technical people. Would that be a good?
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Actually, if you look at most of them, my company will start from CFO, customer service, business users, right? Mm-hmm. It's not your traditional CIOs alone. Mm-hmm. It is. And the disruption again in the AIOPs space, and this just to extend is what we are doing is we can also tell you when the business will be stop executing. So there, what we call in the AIOPs is we predict events that your operation systems will fail. So it's almost like an earthquake prediction. I'm not saying I'll be right. So we are able to do that for many companies now with very high degree of accuracy. So if you give me your raw signal, right, your alerts, events, and remember with all the latest thing going on with real-time alerts with 5G devices, we're able to predict when your certain application will go down, a business process will go down, or when the system will go down infrastructure, right? So that you can try to fix it before the event happens. Right. Because after it goes down, there's a loss of business. Right. So all these companies, what they're doing is what cloud has changed and the new agile environment is they want to predict events to a certain degree. Yeah. I want to know if my storage is going to go down. We can do that, right? If you give me your alerts and logs with a very good accuracy, I can tell you which application, which compute, network, storage, business application will go down. And that is what I was talking about AIOPs said. So one is to sell it to them. Second thing is, can you actually have an impact so the business operations are running with what I call lights out, right? Without having a lights out moment. Right.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about like where's all this going? Like what's next for this market? Like what are going to be the big trends in this market, and what's next for you guys?
No, I think we are just scratching the surface, right? Look, we have a long way to go. We are like 3.5-year-old company. So for us, just keep doing the same, getting hundreds of customers. Remember, there are global 5,000 companies. So if you have 100 customers, there's nothing compared to the bucket that you have to go after. So stay focused, continue to execute, get more people to automate internal help desk. So help desk internal will be automated, Chris, most of them, right? Do the customer service automation. As Sandesh said, sell it to non-technical people like sales, marketing, finance. Those functions will be automated. I was talking about the operations side too. So all these things will be gone. I think the world will come to a point where the mundane tasks will be related to AI. So people will do the important items. The operations, the DevOps, the cloud operations. I mean, people don't need thousands of DevOps people. You can't even find those many people, right? So you can predict when the Gmail will go down, when the YouTube will go down, right? The cloud guys are already doing that, but the enterprise guys are not doing that. So Bank of America's and Goldman's, right? They have outages. They're not doing much to the extent how the cloud guys are doing. So you'll see a whole change in, I call it proactive, prescriptive, predictive solutions. The world has not gone there yet. Today we are still very reactive, right? To the point, today my system is, you're asking me a question, I'm responding in common AI. Where the future will be is, I don't want you to ask me, I will tell you. So I call it like a concierge service. I'll wake up and say, Chris, would you like to do this today morning? System will start talking to you, right? Hey, other people are doing this. Would you like this? Other people are doing 10 hours exercise today morning. Would you like to do 10 minutes of exercise? Right? I think you'll start seeing your devices in home do it. You'll see this AI system will engage. I call it, this one become user behavior based technology. It'll start understanding your behavior is different from Sandesh, because I don't want to recommend what Sandesh does to you. You are, right? So you'll see this whole thing will become a lot more trying to user and personalization, right? Same thing how ad technology went in the last 20 years. Today, I'm sure within Google and Amazon, they know exactly what we are going to do after this podcast. What are you going to buy for your spouse? Right?
Yeah.
Where are you going to shop? So it'll start recommending it. So all those things will happen in this space. The system will get smart. It'll become understand you as a user. You are Chris. This is what your interests are, right? So it becomes a reactive, cognitive, fully proactive, fully engaged. It may take X number of years, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little afraid of something else that's going to be telling me what to do. I mean, my wife already has a really big list, and weekends get tough with that. But so tell me about what's the return on the investment? Should people get started? What do you see in that?
Yeah, so I think the return on investment comes in multiple flavors. What we are seeing with our customers first is comes in the cost piece itself, right? People always want to know, if I buy this, is it additive or am I going to save money? You do save money in multiple areas, right? You save money in your tools, your customer service application that you have, how many licenses you need. So there's immediate ROI by applying AI, like a conversation AI or AI customer service in front of Salesforce, ServiceNow, Zendesk. So there is a cost saving, immediate cost saving. Mm-hmm. And when I say immediate, I'm talking about not like a year. You can start seeing the value, because if AI is deflecting this much, that many licenses you don't need it, or that much time is saved off your customer support. Yeah. Or if you outsource to an MSP, you don't have to pay that much money to MSPs, right? So that's one angle. The second angle is the productivity of the users. The user productivity is also, there's a big saving, because a user on the average, if it's blocked for 30 minutes an hour, whatever salary you're paying to the users, or let's say $40 an hour, $50 an hour. So there's a saving on the user productivity. The third thing that I say is the overall experience, right? The more you do that, you grow your revenue, right? Back to the customer satisfaction, NPS. The more engaged the users are, the more you solve their problem in there, they like to stick with your brand. So what we are noticing is people that are adding AI will create a friction and then providing a human. It's the other way around. The more they actually use AI for all our brands, and this is what I saw with Zoom and McAfee, people loved it. Their NPS and CSAT went up by 10 percentage points with AI. People wouldn't have thought of that, right?
The NPS piece of it's really interesting, because that is a concern. Like you always talk about, if you don't have the person there with that personal touch, how is that going to impact the customer experience? And if everybody's NPS scores are going up, I think that kind of answers the question, right?
And the logic behind Chris there I was saying is, the reason it's going up is, if I give you a quick answer, correct answer, and I'm being truthful and honest and this thing, people like that. So the AI is not going to lie. He's going to tell the solution, the answer, what it is. It gives you a quick response to the point. At least you know what you get. Whatever it cannot, you'll go back to your customer service agent, right? So that is what is helping the customers engage, saying that, look, I have a question, I can resolve it, I'm done. And I feel like you solve the problem.
And the thing is that you're going to do it consistently too, right? With good accuracy. And I mean, how many times have you talked? You call up a customer service person and you're like, ugh, that's not the answer I was looking for. You hang up, you call back, and you get somebody who knows the answer, and then you're like, oh, that's good. But that's not a good customer experience. Like an AI that can get it right every time is really where you're looking for, right?
Yep, you nailed it. That's exactly. So that I see as a ROI is like the benefit, and finally the whole experience. Right? People love experience, right? The reason you are using all these brands, whether you're Instagram or Snapchat, whatever you like, Facebook, people love that experience. The more we can do this experience, you get engaged, users will stick to your brand, you grow your revenue, you cut your costs on your licenses, you cut your costs on the support desk, the TCO goes on. So it's like ROI is huge across this. So that I don't want to take it away lightly. The ROI, people see this as millions of dollars if you do it correct.
Well, and it's not just cutting costs, right? I mean, the thing that I think is interesting about this is there's a cost avoidance piece to it. And if you're a leader of a company and you're looking to expand into new areas or provide additional services or more coverage, this is a great way to do it without having to take on all that additional cost potentially, right?
You're absolutely right.
I think this is a really interesting area of the market, and I'm really excited to watch your business grow. I'm really excited to watch AI sort of permeate everything we do, which it is. And like you say, we're just at the tip of this, and it's just starting up now, right? And I'm very excited to see where you guys go with this and all the things that you do. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. And this has been great talking with you. Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you, Chris and Sandesh. It was a pleasure speaking with you guys, and very good, interesting discussion today.
Thanks.
You. Thanks for watching. I'd love to get your feedback in the comments. And if you like what you saw, please click that like button. Hit the subscribe button because that helps the channel a ton. And if you want to get notified, please click on that bell icon and you will get those notifications. And I will see you in the next video.